welcome into the Porygon-Z presentation here. March 30th will release the Destined Rivals set, the next big TCG expansion set, and it'll introduce Rocket's Pokemon, and this is just one of the many Rocket decks that are coming out of it. I think this is a fun guy to look into, and I'm excited to take an early look at what Japan, who has already had the cards, have been doing with them, and how the results have been. So far, the Rocket Pokemon haven't made waves, but that's okay, we can see how it goes in the future. But for now, let's go ahead and look at the Rocket Porygon deck, with our main star being right here, this normal type Rocket's Porygon-Z with the move Reconstitute, no, sorry, not a move, the ability. And it says you must discard 2 cards from your hand in order to use this ability. I know what you're thinking. This is like discount Goldango. Why are we discarding 2 only to draw 1? Well, it plays into the main thing with its attack, Control R, which in Japanese, on the Japanese card, it's R Commando. What does Control R do? Does it break your computer? Does it crash everything? No! It does 20 damage for each supporter in your discard pile with Team Rocket in its name. Now, the discard ability makes more sense, I am sure. We are going to be discarding as many Rocket supporter cards as we possibly can in order to pump up our attack power on Porygon-Z. This is a single prize Pokemon deck. I like single prize Pokemon decks. This Ethan's Typhlosion is fun. It's going to be great if you like that sort of thing. And we're going to go over the lists and how it goes into play and how it's looking so far. So right now, we can look at the numbers. And if we have 4 supporter cards trash, we're doing 80. And then if you go down the list, the other key numbers would be about 240 damage, which is really good to hit, and then 340 damage, which is like ideal because that is the main HP cost thing of our, big guys like Big Dragapult EX, Big Scary, and Gardevoir EX. So that is something to kind of build towards through the game. Now, what are the Rocket supporters in this deck that we have to be discarding and also relying on for this Rocket package to work? Well, we have Ariana, who is probably one of the best ones that comes out of this. She's going to be our draw support. I've got little notes here, but basically, Ariana is going to be filling the hand. Draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand, but if all of your Pokemon in play are Rocket's Pokemon, draw until you have 8 cards in your hand instead, which is really great. Use her for 4. This is obviously highly incentivized for you to have only Rocket's Pokemon in play, because, if you have like a hand size of 3 and you need to draw cards, drawing 2 cards is nice to reach 5, but I'm sure you can imagine that drawing 5 cards to reach 8 is a lot better. Now, Team Rocket's Archer here is going to be retaliation based. You can play this card only if any of your Team Rocket's Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck, then you draw 5 cards and your opponent draws 3 cards. So this is a little something like that. We have Gusting with Giovanni. Switch your active Rocket's Pokemon with one of your benched Rocket's Pokemon. Then, if you do, you can switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with one of their active Pokemon. Super awesome. Then Petrel, is that how you say? I'm not sure, but we can search the deck for 1 trainer card and put it into your hand, and then shuffle the deck. That is great for finding a key component you may need, and Team Rocket's Proton allows you to use it even on the first turn going first, so it is bending the rules for you. And it's doing so you can search the deck for up to 3 basic Team Rocket's Pokemon and reveal them and then put them into there. That is our way to set up. Now, the other Rocket Pokemon that you might be seeing in here would be Mimikyu and Articuno. Those are 2 that keep popping up for right now. Now, of those that pop up, we have Mimikyu. With Gem Mimicry as well, choose an attack on your opponent's Terra Pokemon, active one, and use it as the effect of this attack. I think this is also used as a pivot, because if you notice, it has free retreat, and it's a Rocket Pokemon. Like I said, you're going to probably want to be having this Rocket package all together, and so having a Mimikyu pivot little guy with 60 HP is kind of helpful. And so Articuno as well, right here, we can see that its ability helps protect. Its ability resistance fails to prevent all effects of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks done to your basic Team Rocket's Pokemon in play. Alright, that's cool. Other Rocket cards that we can consider to put into the deck that will help us is going to be Team Rocket's Factory. Once during either player's turn, if that player has played a supporter with Team Rocket in its name from their hand, they may draw 2 cards. So this is going to help with card draw, as well as from our Porygon with its ability, drawing 1 card as well, and then from Ariana potentially as well, late game and everything and all around. So that's going to be great. We're also utilizing using Rocket's energy, it can only be attached to Rocket Pokemon, and if it's attached to anything else, you would discard it, trash that thing away, get it out of here. Okay. As long as this card's attached to a Pokemon, it provides 2 in any combination of Psychic and Dark energy. Really great. We are going to be using it, of course, to use the Porygons. Take note that Porygon-Z and Porygon-2 can use the attack Control R, which means that's great. I mean, like, we don't usually see the middle stage Pokemon being able to be an attacker as well, but this is great for the deck and for, you know, gaining some advantage here. Keep in mind, though, that Control R on Porygon-2 is 3 energy, and on Porygon-Z it's 2. So you're going to be wanting to use the Rocket energy, as well as maybe Reversal energy for the Porygon-2. Now, we can also play down Team Rocket's Receiver. It's an item card. Search your deck for a supporter card with a rocket in its name, reveal it, and put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. That's pretty good, pretty good. We can look at our A-Spec options now. So, what are people playing in this? Well, it comes down to, again, great ways that we can discard things quickly. Secret Box discards, and Brilliant Blender does too. Secret Box allows you to discard from the hand 3 cards, and then Brilliant Blender allows you to discard 5, but that is from the deck. And at least with Secret Box, you are able to get things as well. So you can get your Stadium, you can get your item that you might need, like a rare candy, you could get other things, stuff like that that might come in handy. So keep that in mind when deciding on which one to use. Of course, you can always use different ones as well. I think there's a list that we will look at that has a maximum belt or something, but primarily you can understand that that's why these 2 A-Specs are very popular. They are good synergy with it. Now, as for items that you might consider as well, perhaps sneaky ones that might not come to mind immediately, but we have Sacred Ash coming out too. Shuffle up to 5 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck. So let's replenish things and keep things going through the game and stick it out, because we are looking for, you know, the long game and stuff. Rotostick is going to help look for supporters. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal any number of supporter cards you find there and put them into your hand, then you shuffle the deck. This allows you to grab your supporter. With all that in mind, what are the strengths here? Well, I would say that this is, again, it's a single prize Pokemon deck, so that means it's naturally going to be a factor in slowing the pace, potentially, and that's in your favor. If your opponent has to go through lots of little one-prize Pokemon like Porygon, and if we can have Porygon-2 set up on the bench as another attacker, like, we can kind of go slow, and that is really great. Because, yeah, again, both Porygon-2 and Porygon-Z can use the attack, which means you can chill at times, not have to set up more attackers at a high, fast pace. But, of course, don't get me wrong, you still had to be on top of it and stuff, but this is just some little factors that might come into the strength or uniqueness that this deck can provide. Some of the lists have rare candy included, but Porygon-2 also helps justify a lower count if you feel so inclined, because again, you can utilize it as an attacker, or, you know, you don't have to rush too much. Like I said, I think it also comes down to when to also place the energy and where, and make sure you can cover that attack cost for whoever is going to attack and stuff. But yeah, that's just things to consider. I ran one and it was pretty fun, but there were definitely times I noticed when it was crunch time, low on resources, and might have needed another rare candy late game. Also, lots of supporters in the deck. There's so much because this is the point of the deck. That means hand disruption might be a little less of a threat because we can refill the hand with finding Ariana or something easily, somewhat, depending on how you've positioned the board state and the conditions through into the late game. And this is a deck that, you know, can still remain strong in the mid to late game, and that's good. It does need some time to set up, but once it does, you know, it's running pretty well. Porygon-2 and Porygon-Z might be small, but that 300 plus damage is really enticing, really great. Like I said, if we can build up to that to the mid to late game, and then just one-hit KO things, that's wonderful, I would say. And so that's why you might want to try the deck out. Now, as for some weaknesses, one is that it's a Rocket deck. What I mean is that so far, the Rocket deck packages haven't been so explosive in good results, let's say. But that's okay. It might change, but as you can imagine, it's kind of limiting with just the rocket package. And as mentioned, you're incentivized to just use the rocket package because you are, for example, with Ariana, like we just mentioned, you need to get those extra cards or try and rely on that. And if you have a Pokemon that's not a rocket Pokemon, that just means you are not getting access to that extra number or those extra things. And especially if you start with that, that can be, again, important. They can be little factors. But it's up to you, of course. You can always try and run other Pokemon. Some lists have Badoo, some lists have stuff like that. But try around with it. There's also not a lot of reliance on item cards and search. We're really relying on our supporters to do things. For example, we don't really have a high count of Buddy Buddy Poffin or like Nest Balls in these lists because we are focusing on supporters like Proton to get set up with. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't run those cards. I'm just saying these are the trends we're seeing and why. But, I think you can get the picture. But yeah, the other thing is that the deck takes time, and that is a plus for you and with the prize race, but it can also mean that your opponent is also setting up and getting a good amount of time too. So keep that in mind. The other thing is that right now we have a meta that might be kind of still full of the Iron Hands, so Amp You Very Much is very scary for these little Pokemon. We also have, Ogerpon, Wellspring Ogerpons, like Pump Attack, and then we have just those things going on. Raging Bolt is probably going to be more popular. If they have a fighting type Pokemon, we are fighting weak, stuff like that. So that's all things to consider as well. But like I said, I think you should still go for trying it. And now we can look at some of the lists as well that feature stuff. So this list has a Badoo in it. And as you can see, we just are doing such a heavy line of supporters because we should. Yeah. And then here's some winning decks. I will have, of course, everything linked in the description, resources and stuff that you can take a look at and look at some of the deck lists. But once again, we see some rare candy included. This one list on the bottom has a surprise Chingling that has for free this baby Pokemon. Discard a random card from your opponent's hand. That's fun. Let's keep going. We keep going here. The other thing about the deck that I'm sure you are realizing is it's very a little cookie cutter or like standard, it's very easy to understand and pick up, but maybe some might find that as a downside because your opponent might also understand and be able to track the counts of things because, this is kind of straightforward. They're all kind of the same, but it's okay. We can still use it. Still try it. These deck lists come from Pokeka Book, and like I said, I will link it down below. Here's the one with the maximum belt. That's really cool. All right. As for my own personal experience with the deck, playing with it and stuff, my proxies are quite funny because, that's all I've got. But playing against the other Pokemon, it's satisfying trying to get big knockouts on big state, EX Pokemon, like Raging Bolt, trying to take down that behemoth. But it can be tricky sometimes. And like I said, you kind of have to manage resources to a degree. It's not quite, because when you discard a lot, you do have to keep track still kind of what options are available going into the late game. Maybe you want to make sure to save on to some Arianas late game so that Ionos and things don't affect you as horribly. You know what I mean? You can recover from that stuff. And then also utilizing boss when you can and taking smaller knockouts and stuff, like being able to use Giovanni to swap, and maybe Porygon-Z can't get to the right number just yet for the big ones, but we can go after lesser HP 2 prize Pokemon to hopefully gain an advantage as we go through the game. So yeah, there's a lot to it. I had fun playing with it. I am probably going to play with it a bit more, but I think this was a really interesting one to start with, and hopefully you also enjoy this and this was helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts though on the deck, as well as what you would want to play in it or with it, what you're thinking. We're probably going to be looking at more of the rocket decks that are coming up, but this is one that is kind of a little rogue, kind of fun, and I definitely wanted to talk about it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.